Go. And we're live. It's even before 7 o'clock. I was able to, even though I was switching photos around to get the nozzle thing up and running. I actually originally posted a very cool photo, but it just doesn't show up very well as the thumbnail because of the way that they size it, and I didn't resize it, so it didn't all show up. But what I want to talk about tonight is a number of things. Actually, one, if you haven't already, please go take a look at the video that I posted today about LS turbo camshafts. And as you might imagine, we ran a stock one, we ran a truck cam, the Tech-Nos cam, we ran a high performance NA camshaft, and in this case it was a 454 comp cam. We ran them all with boost, and guess what they all did? Spoiler alert, they all did very well, because that's what happens when you run a camshaft and you run a turbo on it. It works well. That's what they do, no matter what. And that's the reason that I did it, is to show people that people get wrapped up about having the right kind of camshaft, or, I got to have a turbo thing, or I got to have this kind of cam or that kind of cam. And it doesn't matter. An NA, a stock cam is not a turbo cam, and it works fine. The Tech-Nos cam is not a turbo cam, and it works fine. The 454 cam from Comp Cams, the 454-11 camshaft, is not a turbo cam. In fact, it's not even, I don't even think it's a cathedral port cam, and we ran it on a cathedral port motor. So it's not a turbo cam, it's not a cathedral port cam, and yet it still works just fine, which is what they do. And also, really, to really bring it all home, the boosted power curve just mirrored the NA curve. So whatever the cam did to the NA curve compared to a stock cam or some other cam, whatever that does, that's just a new starting point. You just elevate that. So they all work. So pick the camshaft for all the things that you want it to do. You want it to chop, you want it to idle, you want it to get good fuel mileage, whatever you want it to do. That's how you pick it. So that's what that video is all about. So go check it out if you haven't checked it out. Tonight, we're going to talk about a couple things for the people that weren't here this morning on our morning edition, the wake-up call. That's what I should call it. That would be good. Where we talk about getting each other motivated to get all of our projects done. I actually did some unboxing of stuff. You can see mostly intake manifolds, and these were all Pontiac intake manifolds, both that I plan on running or trying on the 350 Pontiac, and then also on more importantly, on the trophy 4-cylinder, once we get that all back together. Still working on the pistons and rods for that. But once we get that back together, we have a dual plane there, and we have a single plane. The single plane we need to drill out for injectors so that we can run it EFI. And then I think what I can do is just cut it all up and make it into a dedicated 4-cylinder intake manifold. We'll see how well it works, though. I think probably, even given the fact that it has fairly generous runners on it, I'm still thinking it's probably not going to make the power that the dual plane is going to. But then we'll see. It'll be interesting to find out. So we'll be able to run that. I also want to run I'd like to run the 2-barrel intake manifold, the factory cast iron 2-barrel V8 manifold, and then the factory cast iron 4-barrel V8 manifold. And then we'll run the stock trophy 4-cylinder manifold. And then what I want to do is modify the trophy 4-cylinder manifold to accept multiple carburetors, because, it needs to have multiple carburetors. Every motor does, because it will, if nothing else, it will look a lot cooler. The thing that I'm worried about is I'm not sure. I need to see what we can fit there. We might be able to fit 3 1-barrels or 3 2-barrels or something. I think 3 1-barrels is probably going to work. Maybe 3 2Gs, but maybe 3 1-barrels. I think all of that, we can make that work. It's just going to take some welding on cast iron, so we'll have to see how that all comes out. So that was this morning. If you guys would like to see what those intakes were like, I can unbox them here too for the guys that didn't see it. If that's something you're interested in, we can do that. But what I want to talk about first are these NOS nozzles that I tested way back in the day. In fact, I tested them for my modular Ford book, and we ran in the chapter on nitrous, because all of those books, they had a common theme in that they had an individual chapter dedicated to each, like I call it a performance subsection. So there's one on nitrous, there's one on supercharging, there's one on turbocharging, there's one on cylinder heads, and one on camshafts and headers, yada, yada, all of those things. So all the tests within that chapter basically are dedicated to that subject matter. So one of the things that I did was, way back in the day, NOS came out with a kit, and they originally, I think, came out with it for the 2-valve motor. And what it was, if you look at the photo, you can see it's called a nozzle. And what it does is it's basically an adapter for your injector, I guess is the best way to describe it. So it goes on into the opening, into the injector opening in the manifold. And then you put the injector in that. And then within that, you also feed the nitrous and the fuel for your nitrous kit. The thing that I liked about it is it worked very well. It was very cool. It's, you know, because you're, and the distribution is going to be even because you're injecting the same amount of fuel and the same amount of nitrous into all of the cylinders, and you're doing it not into the manifold, you're doing it into basically where the manifold meets the head port, so down at the head port, which is a good spot for it. And when we ran it, it did very well, and I adapted it to this 4-valve Cobra motor that I ran rather than running it on the 2-valve. They said, yeah, it wasn't really made for that, but we don't know how it's going to work. I said, it'll just work. It'll work just fine. My concern when I first ran this was, what does this thing do to power when you run it with just the injectors? Does it affect the spray pattern of the stock injectors? Does it affect the power output? Does it affect the drivability in any way? And it didn't seem to affect the NA power. I ran it back to back with and without them, and it didn't seem to change the NA power. So there was nothing, at least at wide open throttle. Now I don't know, I don't remember, I did not put them up on the ASNU injector machine to see if there was a change in them hitting the edge, because there's basically just a small opening in that nozzle. And then I don't know, I'd have to look and see what injectors we ran and what the spray pattern was on the injectors that we ran. If it's just a pencil beam, then that will come out very nicely. But if it's a 15 or 20 or 30 degree cone, then, you know, it might hit off the walls and puddle up or whatever. That's what I was concerned with. But we didn't see that, at least we didn't see that under power on the dyno. And then we ran nitrous. Obviously, we got good gains from it because then you can get it evenly to all the cylinders. That works out very well. And the system, if I was able to load the photo so you guys could see it, it is really cool looking. It's just that, like most individual, you know, fogger setups where you have one fogger for each cylinder to ensure that you get equal distribution, the right amount of nitrous, it's fairly elaborate and fairly busy. There are a lot of lines and things going everywhere. I like the fact that it made it easy because this way you didn't have to drill and tap the manifold, which is, you know, not a horrible thing. But this just, you know, you take injectors out and this just goes in and you put it back on, and it worked fairly well. But there are a lot of hoses and lines. They did these high pressure plastic lines with compression fittings on them, I think. So you didn't have to run braided line on the whole thing, and it made life fairly easy to hook everything up. And we ran it, and like I said, it worked fairly cool. And I don't know why they discontinued it. I'm assuming because maybe it was fairly expensive, and I don't know that the average guy, you know, you have to ask yourself, at what level do you start needing that sort of sophistication and expense? Like, at what nitrous level do you start needing that? And then if you look at it from a marketing standpoint, if you're putting your marketing hat on for Holley or for NOS, you're saying, hey, look, what's the market size for the people that would want to do that, as opposed to the people that just want to put a single fogger, a single wet fogger, or even a single dry fogger in front of the throttle body and just run it like that. That's going to be the vast majority of people, because the smaller nitrous hits are going to outsell the bigger ones by a lot. And so I think that probably that ran into that situation where it was very cool and very trick and very sophisticated, and maybe too expensive for the size of the market. I'm assuming, I'm just guessing here. I didn't ever talk to anybody on the inside to find out why they did it. Like I said, it worked very well. I need to look around. I might even still have that somewhere. It might be in a box somewhere of the modular Ford stuff. Like I have boxes of the Sprint turbo stuff that I have, the intake manifold that I was the custom intake manifold that I was trying to make, and forged rods and forged pistons and all kinds of stuff for those. You know, there's just lots of stuff there. But I might still have that. I'd have to look and see. I can't remember. Doing anything with that after we tested it. So I'll have to go look and see in my storage to see if that's still around. I haven't seen, we did that test way back. That was a long time ago. So that's my spiel on the on the nozzles. It was really cool though, like I said, because you have the nitrous coming in, you have the fuel coming in, you have them going in and being injected underneath into the opening where the injector is, and then the injector is also spraying its fuel in there. And so it was I think it was a pretty cool idea, and the execution was done fairly nice. Like I said, I think probably maybe just expense was you know, kind of a major problem there for guys. So Richard, you have the best subscribers. My son's channel, Mopar Mustang, only needs 145 more subscribers to race at the No Name Nationals. Guys, get over there and subscribe. If you're going to run nitrous, is best if your headers allow for easy spark plug access. Seen a few times the tips get melted. Yeah, there's sometimes is some servicing with nitrous. You have a tunnel ram for the 460. Uh-oh, somebody got stung by a bee. What's going on here? Jose, right after the start of the week, right after your morning stream, I was attacked by you were attacked by bees. Were they you know, bees are not carnivorous. That's a very famous saying from one of the movies. Did you walk by their nest or something? Was that what happened? That's not good. New old stock NOS kits. Dart air gap for small block Chevys. Jose, did you get stung a bunch and then you had to go to get, usually they give you, did they give you epinephrine maybe? Some sort of steroid probably. I had an allergic reaction one time to bees too, and I'd been stung hundreds of times because we used to play with them all the time. But I got stung right under my eye and the whole side of my face swelled up. It was not good. Eric got the boat done. Jose, eat raw bee, eat a raw bee monthly. You won't have reactions anymore. I thought maybe you were going to suggest that he eats local honey. A raw bee seems a little bit extreme. Bees are our friends. What would be the most budget build for a big block Chevy? Would be to go to the wrecking yard and just get a junkyard 454 and put it in. Vincent, LY2 4.8, how much boost can I run without ring gap? I don't know. What is the ring gap in the motor? We don't know what that is. So, and the boost and the ring gap are not directly related. Any turbo builds for a Ford 429? Nope, not yet. Got to go turn on the furnace. It's cold. It was, I think it was probably 90 or something today. It's in a box next to your kids' old Legos. Those aren't in a box. We're still playing with those. Looking back, I should have gotten angle plug heads. Yeah, sometimes it's problematic with headers. Will I feel a 50 or 75 shot? Yes, you will. Is it true 8.2 deck Windsors work great with nitrous? Yes. And then if you put any other motor in that sentence, that also works. I walked into a swarm. I haven't checked to see if there's a hive near the area. Wow, that's strange. A Sea-Ray Sundancer 268 with a 454. Say I don't want to check ring gap and I want to boost it, say around 10 pounds, then just go do it and see what happens. That's all that you can do. Because there's nobody that can tell you it will work every time, and there's nobody that can tell you it won't work every time. All they can tell you is you need to go try it and see what happens. Richard, I bet you're doing Fists of Zen endurance vigils. No, I was young. What grade was I in? I'm thinking it was either 6th grade or junior high, maybe. And it happened over Easter vacation. And like I said, when I was little, we used to go catch bees in the ice plants and all the time. So I got stung all the time. We were up at the lake all the time, and bees are around when you're drinking your drink and stuff. So bees were, they were kind of cool. We used to let them, crawl on us and stuff. But I went and stuck a stick into a hive in the side of a big oak tree. And first we were throwing dirt clods at it because, like you would if you're a kid. And then that wasn't really doing as much as we wanted. So I found a big, long curved stick and stuck it in there and just swirled it around. By the way, I don't recommend that. And they were really, really mad. And then they came out in a swarm, I guess. And then I was trying to fight him off, and one of them got me right there. And I just, the poor guy, he died because when, it pulled his heart out or whatever, his abdomen, whatever part comes out. I just pulled it out, and then we were going to the movies, and we went to the movies downtown. We walked down to the movies and went to the movies, and we went to see Island at the Top of the World. I remember because one of the guys said, "I fight like bear," and so I ended up saying that all the rest of the night. And especially after I came out, because I kind of looked like him with my face all swollen. Because I remember watching the movie, and I'm like, man, my eyes all watery and stuff. And then when we walked out, because it was all dark in there, when we walked out, they're like, dude, what's wrong with your face? I'm like, that's not very nice, man. And he goes, no, you need to see your face. And my eye was almost swollen shut. So I spent all of Easter vacation basically with a big ice pack and on my face. And so it was a lot of fun. Do you like the Holley EFI Terminator X Max? I've never done anything with it. I've only done HP and Dominator. Highest single kit you've ever seen run without a progressive? We've run 300 shots on it, or they've made a little bit more than 300 because we just took the jets out on a single plate. Those were with the Zex plates. And I had those crosshair plates that will go as a single kit, will go more than that. Richard, what happened to the Buick 455? I still have it. It's not, I haven't put it back together yet. I watch Fast and Furious. I'm pretty sure Richard is the mad scientist. But except without the ADD, though. I threw hot water on a wasp nest. Yeah, that's not good. Face, neck, ears, and arms all got stung. 13 stingers are taken. That's a lot, man. That's a lot of poison. Actually, I think bees are technically venomous, not poisonous. I just watched YouTube. What you could be. What can't get my Chevy to stop with loss of oil pressure. Looking for insight. Well, you got to tell us more about it. Just telling us what kind of car it is, and then that you have a problem with oil pressure. You need to tell us what it's doing. Does it have enough oil in it? Is it have a lot of miles on it? Did it just happen? Does it do it all the time? Is it working when it's cold? Does it only do it when it's hot? Did it happen after you did an oil change? Like, what's going on? Will my 6.2 LS3 13 PSI G8 on 93 benefit from an alcohol kit? What does it really do? Well, what it will do is suppress the possibility of detonation. Does it have an intercooler also? There must be a correlation between leak down and ring gap. A leak down test would be easier than checking ring gap. I would disagree with that. Forgot the mad scientist as a kid. He drives the Jetta. Yep, and the races the S2000. Fascist. The problem with that is that I don't think you're going to see a big change in leak down from ring gap if they're offset, and if you do, if there is a direct correlation between those two things, which I still don't think that there's going to be, but if there is, there's also a problem with it leaking by the rings, not just through the gap. That can't be the only place that it goes, or the valves. Are NOS Pro Shot solenoids okay for progressive use? I don't know. I don't ever remember running a progressive one. We should have done it when I tried to do the Big Bang one. When running nitrous, how do I prevent danger to the manifold? Well, you weld it, right? I will be doing more on the 455, yep. We do need a pole, right? Okay, the poll is, it's actually just a question. Do you want to see the fancy EFI Pontiac single plane intake manifold that I have laying right over here? And did you guys see, well, maybe some of you guys don't do that, but I posted it on Instagram. Today, we had a first that I know of during our morning, our project vehicle motivational hour early this morning. We had the very first 100% poll, and I even took a picture of it, and I'll show you, as a matter of fact. I had to take it quick because it quickly changed. So let's see if you guys can see that. That's not showing up very well. I'll make it bigger, maybe. Let's see. It says, can you see? You can't really see the. Man, the camera angle is not good there. None of those are showing. So the poll was, will the EFI Pontiac V8 intake manifold work on the Trophy 4-cylinder under boost? So that was the poll for this morning. And after 3 or 4 minutes, it was 100% yes. That's the first time I've seen that. And I took a picture of it because it eventually, as it always does, goes down. But I was happy with it. For a brief moment there, we all came together as one. At least 15 of us. Ben, I'm planning on spraying the exhaust manifold as anti-lag. Okay. Richard sprayed meth and nitrous in the exhaust to get it to spool on the line. Let's see. Richard, have you seen the Turbo Buick from Turbo Buick forum who couldn't spray any more nitrous in his V6, so he started spraying it into the exhaust manifold to anti-lag? No, I haven't seen that. Could my dyno results be right? Mustang dyno red, 1,083 horsepower, 6-liter with twin 6762s. That's enough turbo to do that. Dyno operator felt it was reading way high. This was 16 pounds, 16 degrees of timing, sloppy stage 2 on E85. Where was this taken at? was it at altitude by any chance? A 6-liter with a, that does seem high, with 16 degrees of timing, especially. Is this run on, so it's run on E85. So I don't know why you'd only be at 16 degrees of timing at 16 pounds of boost on E85. It should be higher than that. But a 6-liter with a sloppy stage 2, and I don't know what heads and stuff you have on there, but if it has stock stuff, is going to be a sub 500 horsepower motor at the flywheel. So making 1,000 at the tire with 16 pounds seems a little bit high. If you got a very specific shape feeler gauge, you could measure ring gap without taking your motor apart. I'd like to see you measure the second ring gap with that. That would be cool. I'm sure you don't strike me as the herding kind. I'd never heard beaker. Beaker's my favorite. You tried turbocharging? Bees are our friends. They're a not just an important part. They're one of the most important parts of our ecosystem. Without them, all of the plants will die. Don't go. All the plants will die. We tried turbocharging a Buick 3800 with the supercharger, so it has both. Yeah, that video is already up. And we also ran the supercharger by itself. And we turned the blower up. And we put ported heads on it, and we put a cam in it, and then we're going to do a big bang on it too. If Turbo Monza, are you out there? Somebody get a hold of Turbo Monza. I need to get those heads back, or tell me that you're not going to send them back. That's okay too. Then I'll just get another set done. Will a 4L65E be a direct fit bolt right up with no modifications to a 4L60E 4x4? A 4x4 and a 2-wheel drive version are definitely different. I don't know about the 4L65E. You worry about pieces of carbon breaking off of the exhaust manifold, spraying in the exhaust. Ever try a kit that increases fuel pressure for wet side of the kit? Yeah, we've run dry setups where they raise the fuel pressure. I don't like that as well. That there seems to be lag time between the nitrous sprays in and gets in first. It seems to me before the fuel does when you do that. We even see a temporary lean spike because when you spray the nitrous, the nitrous will, even on a wet fogger, the nitrous will arrive before the fuel does. What if we replace bees with synthetic bees? That's always a great idea. Man-made nature things, that always works out. That sentence is the start of every horror movie. The bees are the rivets that hold the spaceship together. Look at Dean. Lucifer, what's on? What's up? I haven't seen you. You haven't been here for a while, huh? Nitrous Direct sells a cold fusion brand kit with a fuel injector adapter for nitrous. You mentioned it's not that price either. Cool. Mike, do you know Turbo Monza? I lost his phone number too. I need to give him a call. Seems like a good guy. I talked to him quite a few times when we were doing the head stuff, if that's what we're talking about. Is there an advantage to a square engine bore and stroke? Not in the range of stuff that we're doing. 317 heads, and we were testing 400 feet above sea level. Yeah, that's not going to have. Maybe take a look at the guy's correction factor and see what's going on there. That's why I was going to suggest that. We see a lot of stuff that's tested like up in Albuquerque or Denver area, and the problem is that the correction factor for the dyno, the correction factor is based on an NA motor. And so they overcorrect for a turbo combination, which doesn't 100% offset the change in the number of oxygen molecules present basically at elevation. But it is self-compensating, because if we have our thing set up, let's say at 10 pounds at sea level, and we also have it set up with the same 10 pounds at elevation, it's going to compensate for some of that. It'll still be, the pressure will still be there. You won't have as much oxygen molecules. You'll not make quite as much power, but you'll make a lot more of it back than when you take an NA motor and run it at sea level and then run that NA motor at altitude. So, but the problem is the dyno is correcting for that situation and not for the turbo situation. And so we see these wild numbers that have 25 or more % correction factor at altitude for turbo combinations, and they're not realistic. Do you have a type of bee? Killer Bees. Killer Bee 16. That's the name of our race team. Super Bees are good too, yeah. The question about having the motor be square, under square, over square, the first thing that I look at, the big thing that's going to help determine the power, is the displacement. So whether you get it from bore or stroke, both of those are good, and the displacement is the biggest thing. That's what's going to help you determine the power. Later on, guys, the people want to talk about bore to stroke ratios and rod ratios and all these other things, but those are really low on the list for making power. They're way behind most other things. They're way behind the cylinder head. They're way behind the camshaft. They're way behind the intake manifold. They're behind the compression. They're way behind displacement. In my opinion, they're behind the exhaust. They're behind the oiling system mods. They're pretty low on the totem pole. Did you test how much timing an NA GT40 302 likes on pump gas? Yeah, we ran. Did you watch the video that's up on where we tested all the GT40 intake manifolds? The OG tubular one. We tested the SN95 version, the Cobra version, the 93 version. We tested all of them. So that's up there, and the timing was provided. We see that with diesel turbo engines and D9s. Oh, the killdozers, D9s. A bulldozer at high altitude, huge power loss corrections. Yeah. By the way, almost lost it when you mentioned that going to the GLHS Purist Honeycomb hideout in the previous video. That's right. I don't think I was invited. He was asking about square pistons. Maybe I didn't get that. I'm really not that cool, so. So Scott, you got 50 horsepower from 1 degree of timing. It seems like a lot. Oh, there's Milo. He's on attack mode. Africanized honeybees, yep. Don't they have the murder hornets or whatever now going now? Yeah, Eric, that video's up where I think we did 4 of them, because I also did. Oh, I remember what the other one was. The other one was the Explorer upper and lower intake manifold, and we even ran it with the elbow on and off. I worked up at Mount McNicholas in Queenstown on a gold claim with a D9. That's a full size tractor. I want to see how the square piston rings turn the corner. Richard, is it safe to run NOS with Keith Black hyper-protected pistons? Yes, you can run them with any pistons as long as you don't detonate it. As long as we don't detonate it. Let's see how our poll is doing. See if you guys can get it 100%. Do you want to see the fancy EFI Pond Hicks single plane intake manifold? 86% saying yes. So apparently I'm going to have to show the intake manifold, right? Is it safe to run NOS with it? Yeah, so let's see what we can do here. I can't remember which one is which, so we'll try. Let's see. That one's a dual plane. This one's a single plane. Don't start asking to see both of them either. Oh, look at that. I even put it back in its hermetically sealed packaging. So I thought that when I got it, it was these were gonna be drilled already and I don't even see. So it's a DIY intake manifold for EFI. DIY for EFI. They should say that on a shirt because there's no provision to mount the fuel rails either. So we're gonna have to figure all that out. Luckily, that's not gonna be a problem. You can kind of see the runners in there. Let's see if you can get the wall. So what we'll do is just mount one side. To run this and to run the other dual plane intake manifold and the other ones that I have, we would have to run different heads on it, not the heads that are on it. The heads that are on it would be only for the early intake manifolds. They have a different water passage, basically. I could cut one off of an intake manifold and use that crossover if I had an early intake manifold to do that on. And then I could cut this, but then that would mean I would have to cut every manifold that I have, and we don't want to do that. So it'd be easier really just to put other heads on it, put a later head on it, which I have a set of the Speedmaster heads also for it. So that would be kind of cool. And then we'll just, for the 4-cylinder, we'll just cap off the other side. And if things work out, I could cut, just whizzy wheel all that stuff off and weld all that up. And then it would be just kind of a fancy dedicated 4-cylinder intake manifold. If I riveted on a forged flat disc plate at the top of my pistons, they would be forged, right? Yes, Honda did do oval pistons in their, I think the oval pistons were in their Big Bang motorcycle engine, right? And then there's also I can show you that one too, I guess. Now I got to make a mess again. I just cleaned all this up. So this is kind of interesting. We talked about this a little bit. It's like Christmas. We talked a little bit about this on the morning live feed. So this is the dual plane. Womp. Same kind of thing. This is for a later head. The interesting thing about this, obviously, air gap style design. But if you look, you can see they did you can kind of see the sideways there. They trimmed the divider down, but only did it on the secondary side. This manifold obviously is also set up both for a 4150 Holly flange and set up for a quadrajet, because the quadrajets obviously were pretty common on the Pontiacs. So it'd be interesting to test this. I'd like to see how well this does versus the stock dual plane, because that stock cast iron dual plane did very well, better than the Edelbrock Performer. Now, I have not tested an RPM or if they have an air gap version, but I've not tested that intake manifold on any of the Pontiacs, and I don't think that the 350 is certainly not going to be as powerful as that 400 was, at least not initially. Maybe as we do more things to it, we could get the power up on it, but it'll be interesting to test those intake manifolds. Have you tested a Chevy LT1? Yes, that video is up. And an L99, which is a version of that, the 4.3 liter version of that motor. Currently building a stock bottom end LT4 6 liter with 1,000 horsepower goal. Thanks for the videos. That should be really fun in almost anything that you put it in. Yeah, that oval piston has 2 rods. It's pretty cool. I think you'll need a lot of boost for a bigger cam. Is that about the trophy 4-cylinder? It's going to need both of those. Okay, check your email. I sent you Turbo Monz's number. Yeah, I will check it. Put it on a 455. I don't have one of those, although we're trying to build something out of a 400 block that would be like a 462 or something. Carlov's in the house. Do you like 4.8s for boost versus 6.0s? There's, I like both of them. The 4.8s are a lot easier to find in the wrecking yard, and they're less expensive, so you can find lots of those. The 4.8 is going to make less power than a 6-liter does because it's starting out making less power because it's smaller. So you get to decide which one that you want. If I'm trying to make 500 horsepower, 600 horsepower, whatever, and I stumble across a 4.8, I would take that. I probably would be more apt to take a 5.3 because again, we see 4.8s and 5.3s. I see a dozen of those whenever I go to the wrecking yard. I see 0 6-liters, and so if you try to go buy a 6-liter, they're more money. If I had my choice, I'd pick a 5.3 over 4.8. It's just a bigger motor, and it's just going to make the boost spool up. It's going to start out with more power. It's going to make more power with any camshaft than a 4.8. It's just a bigger motor. Last time you didn't get my email. Let's see. Well, I think I'm on the line here. Let's see. House of Dragons. It's gonna be hard to replace Daenerys. Yeah, Mike, I got yours. We're good. We good. While I'm here, as well get rid of all this stuff. Gutter guard. Pass. So let's see. Oh, he asked if he can make 1,000 horsepower with a Tech-Nos cam and boost. Yes, very easily you can do that. The Tech-Nos cam on a 5.3 on the L33 made over 400. So boost that's less than 20 pounds to make 1,000. We're watching Calvin, the twin turbo 4200. Yeah, he's got good stuff going on over there. Scott, I've got everyone asking what I'm making for horsepower. Well, you're not going to be able to tell them. You can only tell them what the dyno said. Anything else, you'd just be guessing. Todd, I got the LC back together. It runs better than it ever has. Thank you. I'll send you a new data log. Did you do more tuning? Did you add more fuel to it? Or is it run? If you want, we can take your computer. I can send it down to Ish, and he can make it right if you want to do that. I just don't want you hurting it. I'd rather take it out and take it down to the dyno and put it on the dyno and make it run and make it work right. So how's our poll doing? Do you want to see the fancy EFI intake? We already did that. We already did that poll. 85% are saying yes. I got a 250cc that was designed by the same engineering team as the Hayabusa motorcycle engineering team. James, he's asking if you can make 1,000 horsepower with an LQ4 and a Tech-Nos cam. Yeah, on a 6-liter it would be even easier than on a 5.3. And you'd have all that good boost response. But he could do it at a lower boost if you did it with it, if you put a bigger camshaft in it. It just depends on what he wants for drivability and stuff. Is the BTR Stage 2 truck cam ideal for a 6-liter? Is a trending kit recommended? There's no ideal, so you're going to pick whatever cam that you want. Take a look. I have videos up where we ran that Stage 2 truck cam on a 6-liter. I don't think it was an LQ9, though. I think it was a LY6. So it had rec port heads on it, but guess what? It still does the same thing. Trending kits, I usually recommend them when guys have real high mileage rockers. Is oil PSI idle is right around 40 PSI. Yeah, that's good. Eric, is that the way that is that spelled correctly? I think there's an A missing there. Hayabusha, Hayabusa, right? Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I forgot to mention to you guys. Somebody has reached out to me about testing aluminum, essentially 4V Cleveland heads, and so I think we need to do that, especially because they'll bolt on to a Windsor, so we could make a Boss 302-ish kind of motor, like a 347 or a 331 or something like that, which would be cool. And then the 4V heads would be awesome, and they're aluminum, and they can make the chambers as small as 58 cc's. And I don't have all the details on them, but I'd like to see. He may be sending over some airflow data and stuff, which would be kind of cool. So what gen or year 5.3 do you like over the 4.8? The Gen 4 5 or a Gen 4 4.8 is also the best one. Ones have a little bit better rod, and they have a floating pin, different block, and so those tend to, you could make ultimately more power with those, I think. We made 837 wheel horsepower with an LY6 and 88 meter T6 turbo. Mind you, this is using a well-known tuner, but it blew up. My tune ran like a scalded dog at 15 PSI. There's lots of videos up on running stuff at that kind of power level. Thoughts on building a 4L80E with knowledge from YouTube and a Transgo kit. Jerry, thanks for your help. Richard will soon know what a bone stock 4.2 liter Ford SX V6 makes when you put 7 pounds of boost on it. Well, what is the power rating on that? I don't know what year that is. So what's the power rating on that motor? Like, what's the factory rating on that? The NA combination. Keep it safe. Richard, for 305 small block Chevy, would a truck Norris? There's no truck Norris cam available for a small block Chevy, or a Mother Thumper cam be better intended to use the cross ram is not good. I don't know what the RPM range really is going to be for the cross ram. So the camshaft you select is still going to be for whatever kind of RPM range you're going to run. Do you have, if the 305 is all stock, if it has stock heads and stuff on it, you should put a small camshaft in it, because you don't have enough head flow to take advantage of that. I'm thinking that the cross ram is more for looks. Sandy, I'm gonna do a 302 based LT1, and you can do that. It's just that it will make less power than the 5.7 version of that motor does. Richard, your video was acting up. It was grainy. Maybe when I went over to AOL, maybe that's why. We'll get out of that. Maybe when I was searching for Hayabusa. We'll get rid of that and see if that gets better. I kind of get the feeling that 4 valves are cheating. Well, this is a 4V Cleveland, so it's still a 2 valve. An 88mm turbo is really big. Yeah, depending on which one it is. I have the prototype CHI 208 heads. Those are good too. I have used CHI heads before, and they work really well. You need 5 valves. I had a motor that had 5 valves, but I don't think that that's any better than 4. It's just you could say 5 valves. I also had a motor that had titanium connecting rods, which was also just something that you could say. I don't know that I've ever driven an electric car. I don't think I have. I don't even remember, honestly, driving. I don't remember driving a hybrid either. Can you drop a 454 big block and a Nova without any problems? Yeah, I think I don't know a lot about the 75. What if they did something to that chassis? But Novas were available with big blocks in them, like on the 72 that I have. So they just bolted right in. The 75, I don't know if they have problems with that. Did I miss the intake? Yeah, I already showed everybody the intake. It was super cool. You missed it, man. Titanium rods are awesome. Yeah, this was in a NSX. Richard, remember the burnt one on the side of my place? Yeah, what is that? What was that? Testing the Cleveland stuff. I think it would be cool. It just different. I mean, and especially that it would be it'd be a Cleavor and not, which is even, I think, even kind of cooler maybe than a Cleveland. How about an episode or series on water meth injection setup and results for basic turbo setups? I have water meth testing videos up already. You can take a look at those. Cleavor with a turn down 400 crank. It'll probably just be a 347 or a 331 or something like that. The NA power, it was rated at 187 is what it was rated at, or is that what it made on some dyno? Oh, the Hayabusa. Okay, yeah, that's what you're talking about. Yes, that was not good. Do the Cleveland heads flow over 420 CFM? That'd be a lot for a small block head. Cannot wait to buy a hydrogen combustion Yaris, but they might not come to this country. Is there a difference between a BTR stage 2 NA cam and the BTR stage 2 truck cam? Yeah, there's a big difference. So there's going to be a difference both in the, well, in everything, in the lift and the duration, and the LSA is probably different too, I think. Jerry is rated at 205, 4900 from Ford. Hydrogen engine tuning. The 4.2 liter Ford V6 supposedly made 205 horsepower. That's a decent amount of power for a little V6. Got a couple more minutes left. How's your poll doing? 84% said that they wanted to see this. That's the dual plane. This was the single plane. EFI. So for the people that didn't see it, now you can see it. I showed you. I see. I showed you for the latecomers. Take care of everybody here. Are the components still just as strong on an LQ4 and an LQ9? Yes. The thing about, and I don't know if, could you get a Gen 3 LQ9 or were those only Gen 4s? I know that you could get Gen 3 LQ4s, but I don't know when they introduced the LQ9, if that could still be a Gen 3 or a Gen 4. If they're only Gen 4 and you compare a Gen 3 to a Gen 4, the Gen 4 is going to be stronger. It's going to have better rods and a better block, in my opinion. The LQ4 or the LQ9 is obviously going to have higher compression. Yeah, Todd, that could have been really bad. Oh, T, you saw him on the AM show? See, that's good. That's what we like. We like to hear people saying that. Ah, I saw him already. It was on the AM show. (2006) 6-liter factory LQ9 daily driver. I think the Tech-Nos can would be my recommendation for that, because then you don't have to change your stall converter. You don't think that the pole changed much after we showed the manifolds? You'd think that it would, right? Shouldn't have any trouble with the Turbo LS if you can ride a Hayabusa. That is a lot of bike. I've never ridden one of those. I have to show them to rock out my Marshall. Is that your amp? Do you have a Fender Strat, Flying V, an Axe? Moss did hydrogen rotary RX-8 in the late 2000s. So I'm going to close our poll out now that everybody's seen that anyway. 83% saying yes, 17% saying no. Shame on you guys. One more minute. Shooting for 265 horsepower, 7 pounds on pump gas. My first non-supercharged turbo deal. And if the math is right, it should be a good driver and make decent torque. I think so. You should really like the torque production. That should be really good. I didn't see Car Farm. Are they here? Are my Car Farmer brethren here? The morning shows are usually on the weekdays are going to be at near 7 Pacific Standard Time. Carlove 1290. Is that what ET is that for? LQ9s were all Gen 4 rods. They put the rods in them because GM thought they were better for the heavier Escalades. They switched all the 3662 rods to Gen 4 style in 2006. So they got them, the LQ9s, James got them even when did they introduce the LQ9? What year was that? Yes, I've got a Marshall 6100 LM 30th anniversary series Marshall with a Strat. See? Fenders forever. Not sure about the 4.8. Yeah. You voted no because you saw it this morning. So you didn't want to see it again? Just once was enough. That was it. LS2 with 152,000 miles, 2 miles for top end rebuild and start going full race car? No, you could. Those are when we start putting turbos on them. They're just getting broken in. Jacob, I do have a daily LS. It's a 2002 Silverado, and it doesn't have any of those on there because it has a 4L60E, which I was rightfully worried about it breaking. What was Ford Fairlane saying? It's a 1969 Fender Strat strung upside down for a left-handed musical genius or something like that when he was on top of the Tower Records building. My guitar is all scratched up. Yes, I will do something with the North Star. Todd, the LS2 should be fun when you get everything sorted out. But let's get to work. Should have gotten a U-Haul rent-a-truck for the tow. No, then I wouldn't have a story. I have a North Star sitting there from Sanchez. It's sitting there ready to go on, I guess. Jose, is it true California's going to charge people for well water? I haven't heard that. Smiles, I want to build yours will be the last comment for tonight. I want to build a 600 horsepower 383. That's good. With a tunnel ram, FR220 heads. That's what you'll kind of need for that power level. Eventually, NanoS fogger system. The cam I'm thinking about is a 254, 260 at 50, 110 LSA, 582, 588. 1.7 is that the lift with the 1.7 rocker? Because normally a small block Chevy is a 1.5. And it would be odd that camshaft would have such low lift that it would make 588 with a 1.7 rocker as opposed to a 1.5 or a 1.6. That duration camshaft will work fine, and that lift camshaft, the rocker thing is weird to me on a small block Chevy. 600 horsepower is not gonna. I would be surprised if it does that. Although a 220 head probably flows more than 300, I think. So maybe it might get there. It will definitely get there with nitrous. And on that note, it's time to go. I got stuff to do. I have another video to do. I think it's tonight, feeling a little like maybe a big block. Maybe we should go with big block for tomorrow. Thank you guys all for showing up and supporting the cause, as it were. And we get to watch intake manifolds for the guys that are the project guys. I will see you in the morning and have another video up tomorrow. Thanks for showing up, guys. I will see you later. Boom.
I just like clicking the end buttons.